Welcome to the San Jose Hockey Now podcast. I'm Sheng Peng, editor-in-chief of San Jose Hockey Now. You can also find my work at MEC Sharks and on Twitter at Sheng_Peng.
And I'm Keegan McNally. You can find my Twitter at halfwall_hockey, my website half-wallhockey.com, or at San Jose Hockey Now. It is a start of a new season. Woo!
We're finally here. We've been talking about this for so long, getting to opening night, and we're finally here or in a couple of days, and we have the opening night roster that's been submitted to the NHL. So we have a lot to talk about in our reaction to that.
I am just so pumped. We're going to talk about it, but it's been a
we're going to get into Keegan's Gushchin diatribe that was proven all wrong. So I was wrong too, though. But let's save it though. So let's get to some news first.
I'd like to say it wasn't.
Yes.
It just was me in a panic spiral. So I'm happy.
So worse than a diatribe. He was in a panic spiral.
I was in a panic spiral. But before then, we're going to talk about. So bye. We're going to talk about pretty much our only news-related item of the week. Before we get to the roster, obviously that's the biggest news. But we're going to talk about Quentin Musty, our favorite left-wing first-round draft prospect from 2023.
Is he our only left?
Yeah, but it's our
favorite. So I love you, Quentin.
He's our favorite one. It's been announced today, or not? Was it today that it was announced?
It was put out today by Jeff Merrick that Quentin has requested a trade from the Sudbury Wolves. That's why Quentin was sent down September 30th, and the Wolves have played a couple of games since then, and so he hadn't played either of those games or any of those games. So there were questions about why he wasn't playing. And so now we know why. And I was able to confirm with his agent that Quentin has indeed requested a trade from the Sudbury Wolves.
Yeah, I'd read something about that a couple days ago, just from random internet people, that he had not been showing up to games and everything. I think it's interesting because we have been talking about maybe his development going awry at Sudbury or not being not progressing,
right?
And then this comes out, seemed pretty on the nose, I guess. Like multiple people being like, "Oh, he's not ready for the jump yet." There was he was behind on certain plays, and then maybe he heard that kind of thing from the coaches at the camp, and then this happened.
Well, we don't know that for a fact. I did want to say too that we said that there's a lot of news for the Sharks this past week since we last done our podcast, but we're going to get to all that news during our chat about the roster reaction. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there. This one's a little separate from it because Quentin obviously was sent down a good week, more than a week ago now, actually. And so anyway, we don't know the particulars of this yet. The Sudbury Wolves did put out a statement that I don't know if it was the most fair to Quentin. They definitely got on their hind legs a little bit with their statement. One of the points that they made though is that they have an all new coaching staff, right? Scott Barney, former Shark, your favorite number 69, Andrew Desjardins is part of that coaching staff too, and also too that they think that they're working on the things that sort of Quentin seems to want to work on. That's what's suggested in the statement, that they're the right place to address that. And I don't know exactly what's going on yet, but I will say that if I were to take a educated guess, that it is very, very thumbnail version of it, that I would guess that Musty wants to go to a place that's best for his development. And I think that sometimes teams at that level, maybe they think that they are the be all end all club for these players, and they make a lot of money off these players, I think, but they're not, right? The be all end all club for all of these players is what? It's the NHL. And so, so I think that this could be the root of things a little bit, and we'll find out more. But I don't want to over speculate too much, but but I doubt that's what I kind of gather.
Yeah. I'm hopeful that he's going to go to a place that grows his game a little bit. He has all the skill that you need from somebody his size, from a first rounder, and he just has to round out his game into something that's going to fit in the NHL or AHL. So hopefully next camp he comes in renewed and a different looking player overall. Hopeful.
And I think it's good that I think you mentioned this earlier that whatever happens with Musty, whether he stays in Sudbury, maybe he talks with the coaches, he likes what they're offering or whatever, right? Or he goes somewhere else, that he's clearly, it seems like he's paying attention to what the Sharks want and what Ryan Warsofsky said about getting some of these junior plays out of his system. And it doesn't matter. I think you and I talked about this maybe the last week, our last podcast, that it doesn't matter for Quentin to score 2 points a game at the OHL level. And we know he can do that. We know that he is offensive at that level. He is an offensive powerhouse, but he's got to show growth in other areas. And so even if that means that he scores a few less points, a few less goals this year, as long as he's showing growth in those other areas, and it seems like that's what he wants to do, that's a winning attitude. That's just chasing the points. That's not a winning attitude. So it's good. It's good to see that it seems like he's not just chasing the points, so to speak.
And I think we as fans got a little bit ahead of ourselves with Musty because he's had such dominant performances in different places, that like the rookie tournament or in camp, or not camp, but rookie
development camp.
Yeah, dev camp. That we kind of put our like a little bit ahead of ourselves. I think he was only 18 all of last year until July when he turned 19, and then he can't go to the AHL, so there was not really the only path for him was to make the team and play 9 games, and he'd still probably go back to juniors. Like, it's very rare to make the team and stick with a team, especially one that just signed like a boatload of forwards. It's hard for even guys like Gushchin, who are like 5 years out, for 4 years out from his draft year, to make the team.
Right. It took Gushchin to score 5 assists and 9 points in 4 games to make the team.
Exactly.
What did Quentin Musty have to do?
To lead the NHL in preseason points. That's what it took Gushchin to make the 4th line on the Sharks.
Anyway, so the bar was always very, very high for Musty. It was always very, very unlikely for him to make the team. And it didn't help that, if we're being honest, that his game had a lot to work on, to put it nicely, that we saw in training camp and the scrimmages. And so we are where we are. Hopefully, it's a good sort of for the fans. Not slow the roll a little bit after dev camp and the rookie face off. It's just a different level each kind of step, right? Like, it's a boss. Rookie face off is like the easy boss for guys of this skill, for your Macklin Celebrinis, for your Will Smiths and your Quentin Musties, right? And then you have scrimmages and preseason hockey. That's another boss level, right? And then you have the NHL.
Yep. We gotta. He's getting a little bit closer, but
he's getting closer. He scouts were. I will say this for him, and I mentioned this, that scouts were super impressed by his rookie faceoff. Scouts that I mentioned are very, very careful about putting guys in the AHL immediately. If Quentin had been replicate exactly what he did in rookie faceoff, which is a lot to ask, but he's able to replicate that to NHL preseason. And I'm not talking about the points. I always stress that. I'm not talking about the points. I'm talking about the forecheck, the connecting plays, which lead to points, but talk about a lot of other things, right? Besides just the points. If he had been able to do that, scouts were open to it. Scouts from outside the Sharks are like, wow, maybe this guy's got some. Maybe he can be a 19-year-old NHLer, and hit a wall, hit the ceiling for now during preseason. But that performance from rookie faceoff was truly dominant on many, many levels, and was a huge step from the last kind of rookie faceoff. So he should take that to heart, not be too down on everything that's happened, that there was a real growth kind of spurt there. Damn the points. Who cares about the points? we know that he'll score if he gets a chance, but it's about the other stuff. And we saw the other stuff at rookie faceoff more than we've seen at any other time. I think that he's worn a Sharks uniform, that other stuff, quote unquote. And so it's there. It just needs time.
Okay, now for the fun stuff.
Yes,
the Sharks announced a 15 forward, 6 defender, 2 goaltending roster to open the season this
I've
year.
never seen this in my memory for opening night. I'm sure it's happened before, but it is unusual.
Yeah, it was part of the scenarios that I thought of when I was like, how do I get Gushchin on this team?
But I didn't believe it.
I didn't think it was.
I didn't even really think about it because I wrote a story late last night, and I just assumed that they would just go to standard, have extra defensemen, be it Mukamadulin or Thompson or Cagnoni, and they would go 14-7-2. But credit to Mike Greer for keeping things interesting. So 15-16-2, 15-6-2.
15-6-2. Okay, so let's start. We're gonna go by positions for
let's talk forwards first, defense, goaltending. But let's talk Gushchin because he is the guy that really forced, barged, bullied, seized his way onto the team, which you got to give him a ton of credit. I think that up to that last performance against the 5 assists against the Golden Knights, that I think you could still kind of say, he's been good, but
sure,
he's been better than a lot of people in camp. But he's waiver exempt, so we can put him down. You can make that argument, but then he put up five assists.
After the first assist, which was just gorgeous. That was
the best one. I still think
the best skill play, I think, from that whole thing. The rest of it was just sheer willpower, but that was like the highest skill play. They were most like NHL tight space play of the night for him. It felt.
I wrote that in my diary that's the play that said to me, you had to put him on a team. That's one of those. You mentioned real NHL. You're giving very little space. They were playing the varsity Vegas Golden Knights. They were playing the Vegas Golden Knights team that the Golden Knights are going to start the season with. And I remember
that pass between Noah Hannafin and I think Ivan Barbashev.
Was it? Oh, so top players there.
Yeah.
I remember thinking on that shift that Gushchin was, because a game like that, I'm only watching very few players. I don't care what Barclay Goodrow does in a game like this. I want to see what Cagnoni, Thompson, Gushchin, all those guys have to offer. And I remember watching that shift and distinctly thinking like, oh yeah, Gushchin, 5'8", obviously dwarfed by a large Vegas Golden Knights team. And he wasn't doing a lot kind of on that shift, kind of, it seemed like, just kind of skating, trying to find his space. But that moment he got that space, and I put it this way, I think, in my story, and the more I think about it, this I think is a really good way to think about these high skill players that prospects that fans always want to see in NHL immediately, be it Musty or Cagnoni or what, right? Any of these players, they're so high skilled. Will Smith, they're so high skilled that if you give them a lot, then they can do a lot. A lot of time and space, it can do a lot because that's what they were trained to do when they're practicing, when they're doing like just skill stuff by themselves. You give them a lot of time and space, they're going to pick a corner, they're going to do all kinds of stuff that are going to take you to kind of going to get you out of your seat. But in NHL, you rarely are given a lot. And so if you're given if you're given a little but you can do a lot, then you belong in NHL. And that's our guess we're going to get to Macklin Celebrini, but that's what we've seen so far. Granted, Macklin didn't make it to the end exhibition games when you're playing against the very best teams. Well, we saw that against Utah, actually, before he got hurt. And that was, I think, a pretty close to grade A or varsity Utah team there. But the point is, again, just simply that these skill guys, you give them a lot, of course they can do a lot. That's why they were drafted in the first round, or they're AHL All-Stars, or WHL All Stars or what? I don't know. There's not a WHL All Star, I think, right? But anyway, you know
Well,
what
they
I
have
mean, though.
all-star
What I'm saying.
teams,
Yeah,
maybe.
All Star post. Yeah, they have a regular season All Star team. Anyway, the point though is that any of those guys. Let's go back in the past too. Godobin, Chekovich, Chmielewski. I don't know. You throw any name out there that hasn't quite made it. That the
Ryan
fans fall in
Merkley.
love with. Ryan Merkley, a great example of that. You give them a lot, they can do a lot. That's why they're drafted so high. NHL, though, you are given little. And the players that can do a lot, Connor McDavid obviously is the best example of this because no one gives Connor McDavid any space. He just takes it. But anyway, though, yeah, that's the difference. And that's what Danil showed on that play that I haven't seen. Actually, a great example of that is that hat trick he scored against the Golden Knights 2 preseasons ago. And that's actually what's hilarious. He's played 2 games in Vegas in the preseason. He's had a hat trick in one and 5 assists in the other. But I remember seeing that hat trick, and it was impressive, right? But that was an example of giving a lot, you take a lot. That was not an example of a guy that, okay, that play you mentioned, right? That little window of a pass that he had to Costin, right? Great example of that. Not a lot of space, drawing two Golden Knights making a defensive mistake there, drawing 2 Golden Knights toward him and finding that little lane that you can get that pass in. Another example of that is, I think maybe it was a tying goal, right? Where he takes the puck from Dorofeyev. That's an example, again, of not giving a lot, but doing a lot with it.
What I like about Gushchin is many, many things. I went on a rant about Gushchin after the game and like how he had to be on the team because I was just gonna be so upset if he wasn't. It just didn't fit with like the mindset of what the coaches have been preaching for this entire training camp. And I know that it's like every training camp they say that it's an open competition, you know, earn your spot, beat your man. But like there's nothing that like Gushchin could do more at all as a player than lead the NHL in points in the preseason and put up 5 assists in a game and win the game against Vegas's A team. Like, I don't know. So I was going to be really upset on this podcast, but it doesn't matter. It didn't matter because he is back. What I want to say about Gushchin is I've been watching Gushchin as a player develop for a long time at many different levels in the USHL, the OHL, the AHL, and the NHL. And that's a lot of game tape of Gushchin. I watched him before his draft year, and then I don't know how many years it's been, 4 or 5 years. I watched him develop in a way that is, he used to be a very, not selfish player, but like he had a lot of skill and he had to use that individual skill to stand out, right? Like he had to be the guy that's going to carry the puck in and do everything for his teams. Most of his teams were bad, like in the USHL, the OHL, the AHL, all these teams sucked. And he's happy to be the guy. And that turned into a lot of times Gushchin would make the hero play. He would make the bad turnover because he's trying to do too much. And that was super evident when he first got into the AHL. And it's just kind of been, now if he sees a bad opportunity, he chips it down the boards. Like he doesn't try and get himself into a corner and lose the puck. He still will, but sometimes. But he's not as...
He's better, though.
He's better at it. And
we wouldn't be having this conversation because, again, he scored that hat trick 2 preseasons ago. There was no serious conversation about him having him on a team because he was still making those plays, those problematic plays that you're talking about.
Exactly. I think he will still make those things, but they're less prevalent. And I think it's a fine balance because when Gushchin has the puck on his stick and when he can actually like use his smarts and like his obvious like tools, he could be pretty good offensively. It's just you have to strike that balance of turning it over. And then there was a couple times when he would be on the power play and then just he's trying to pick a corner with his shot and just like shoot it and ring out the net or ring out the side of the boards. And I was like, damn it, Goose, you got to keep it low, got to keep it on net because that's the stuff that keeps you in the NHL. And obviously, I think he's learning that too. Like, just it's not all about shooting for the corner. Sometimes you just got to shoot for a tip and a rebound and all that kind of stuff. Simple play is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, he's getting better at it, and that's super exciting to me. And he's a little bit stronger. He's not much stronger, but he's enough that he's like kind of muscling for pucks a little bit better than he could before. So
Right. Yeah.
that's my evolution of Gushchin so far. Reminds me of Eklund a lot because Eklund, not that Eklund never really was that selfish with the puck, but he would get out muscled super easily, and and his shot was pretty weak. So just like those specific skills started to get better with Eklund, and I think the same thing is happening with Gushchin. It's just his decision making, and he's a little bit more physical.
Yeah,
and I like it.
Yeah. Hey, Sharks development. Doing some things
it's actually happening. I'm so excited. I don't. It's not over by any means.
No. I did want to mention that. Yeah. The hard work starts now. Dropping 5 assists in the preseason on Vegas, a hat trick. That's the real work is. We talked about you alluded to it that at least today in practice, that's Monday, and this could change by opening night on Thursday. But Gushchin was on the 4th line with Nico Sturm and Ty Dellandrea, but he also did get he was also on the power play. It was the second unit, but it was actually a pretty good looking second unit because the Sharks are deeper this year. I think it was a second unit with Will Smith, William Macklin, and Alex Wenberg and Henry Thrun. So that's a pretty good looking overall second unit, a lot better than what the Sharks were running as their second unit last year. But anyway, whatever, again, you're given a little, you've got to do a lot. So yeah, maybe it's not fair. You can cry and moan about, Will Smith, anybody, Macklin Celebrini, anybody getting more time than you think they deserve, even Luke Kunin, all these kind of guys, right? They're gonna get more time. We'll talk. I want to talk more about Luke Kunin. You guys know I'm a big Kunin supporter, but actually I want to talk more about all those guys in general, not just Luke. But whatever you're given at NHL, though, you got to do something with it. It doesn't matter if you're given 8 minutes or 18 minutes. Yeah. And so whatever Gushchin is given, he's got to do a lot with it, and he's done it so far in preseason in these little tight areas, right? And I know he's been given pretty good playing time, but even actually going back, we talked about this last week, that Anaheim game where Gushchin was the Sharks' best player, right? His line mates were, I think he was on the 3rd line, maybe, right? It was Collin White and the 3rd line for that game, Collin White and Ethan Cardwell. But guess what? Gushchin took that little he was given, and he was the best Sharks player on the ice. And so he's got to do that now against the best players in the world on a nightly basis. So it doesn't matter if you start on the 4th line. Even last year, Fabian Zetterlund started on the 4th line. By the end of the season, he was a Sharks leading goal scorer. So that's what I hope not to see too much online, which I saw, I think, too much of when Gushchin was getting maybe not like the best line mates, not getting your Mikhail Granlund. And actually, we heard this about Quentin Musty too, right? And I'll say the same thing that I said then, that if you need to play with the very best NHL players to do anything out there, then you don't belong in the NHL. And so that's going to be the task for Gushchin. We'll see. And I wouldn't count him out, though, obviously, with what he's done so far. And I did want to add, too, that I was prepared to come on here and calm everybody down that was mad about Gushchin being sent to the AHL, that there's a very ceremonial aspect to it. Like, look, the Sharks, like, even if they had gone 14-7-2 and sent Gushchin down, Gushchin has done enough that he would almost certainly be the first call up for any wing spot that opens up because of injury or whatever reason, right? And Gushchin could have been sent down today and been back with the Sharks. I mean, literally the way the rules work, he could have been back there opening night, but he could be back in a week or whatever. And so there is something. I mean, Gushchin was we talked with Danil today. He was very proud to be on the opening night roster. I think it does mean a lot to the guys. Talked to Giovanni Smith, who's a guy that myself included did not think he would be here today. And he had a good camp too. And he earned his way. He's a guy that not a lot is given to either. And so in a different way than Gushchin, but he's a guy that not a lot is given to. And he took it this camp too. And so it does mean something to the players, I think, to be on this opening night roster. So I don't want to diminish that too much, but there is a degree of, well, okay, it's not about necessarily being on the opening night roster, but it's about what you do with it past that. And for Gushchin, even if he had started in Barracuda, then whenever he got called up, it would have been about seizing a role. And so I did want to kind of mention that. So that's what I was prepared to say today. I am glad though that he did make it. He
made it,
deserved to make it. Like I mentioned, you can see I didn't change my running diary. I wrote it the second I saw that first assist to Cost, and like, okay, you got to put him in because that's an NHL play. Like you mentioned, that is an NHL play, real deal NHL play there.
Yeah.
So I hope that he seizes it. I don't know who. It's going to be a little tough. He might push somebody out, but who knows, right? Somebody could get injured quickly. But
No, we're just
anyway,
they
so
don't
we'll
find
see.
their game, or I think he does have to show a little bit of not being like way better than his line mates, but at least a little bit better than his line mates. He's got to put, I mean, they're all going to put an effort. It's the beginning of the season, but
Right.
like he's got to be just like that 5-10% more stand out. And
He's got to be noticeably better.
Yeah.
Little, a lot, those kind of descriptors. I'm not sure,
Something.
but he has to be noticeably better, and he's got to be a guy that.
And I think the biggest thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just want to finish this point. He's got to be a guy that, even if he's on a fourth line, that he's playing well enough that if somebody on a third or second line is kind of scuffling a little bit, then the coach thinks, hey, let's put Goose up there. He might be able to inject some energy onto this line. And then when he gets that chance, he's got to do it.
What I like about Gushchin's chances too is that he's really has good conditioning. That's the first thing. He's never like giving up on back checks. He's not he's not as super, like he's not horrible defensively, even for somebody his tiny size. He's not like LeBanc and will just quit on plays and kind of things like that. He often tries to at least come back, even if he doesn't have a lot of physical strength to muscle guys off the puck. But my second point was that I think the ceremonial aspect is really important because like guys that are first round picks, guys that are like 6'3" and are physical and like have the body of an NHLer, they get like 100 chances to make the NHL. They get like chance after chance after chance after chance to make the NHL. Goose like is a third round 5'8" winger that like is a scoring
2020
did 2020 draft pick.
Right.
He doesn't have many more chances to make the NHL and stick. So
fair.
It matters. Like it matters if you start in the NHL versus the AHL. Like the NHL, he could never see it again if he gets sent down. Even how good he had a preseason, things happen. He could get injured in AHL camp and then be done. Like it really, the chances you don't get as many for guys his size and his skill set. So I think it mattered a lot. So just excited.
We'll say though, in response to that it does matter. You're right, and like I mentioned, it does matter personally to the guys. You could tell, but one thing I would say though is, and I agree that guys like Gushchin don't get as many chances. But watching that game, I put this in a story today that I wrote for NBC, that I got 2 texts or 2 messages from NHL scouts now with the Sharks, and both of them were basically saying the same thing. Like, I can't imagine how the Sharks could send this guy down. And this was unprompted. Sometimes I reach out to scouts to get quotes, right? And you see a lot of those in stories, right? So for these 2 guys to just kind of reach out to me, that just tells you how good he was, how well he was playing in that game. Just how he kind of these guys had to message me and talk to me about it. And one of them said like, yeah, our scouts are looking close at this guy. So if the Sharks wanted to trade him or whatever, that's how good Gushchin was. And I guess that's my overall point, that like, even if Gushchin didn't get that chance with the Sharks opening night or whatever, right, that teams notice.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's important. So yes, he overall is not going to get as many chances as, not to pick on anybody, but like a Klim Kostin, 6'3", first round pick. When Klim is on, he is a really good player. I mean, as good as any Shark when, from on every once in a while. But so Gushchin may never get as many chances as that guy, but Gushchin's going to get his chances though when other teams notice. And so yeah, so I did want to mention that I see what you're saying about the importance of being on opening night, but it really wasn't be all end all.
I know.
I think that
It felt like it though.
I understand that. Yeah, you're a fan. You love the player,
Mm.
and I'm talking to the fans here, but it really wasn't though. And so, what is the be all end all is what Gushchin does with the opportunities he's given, even if it's not the ones
Mm.
that you think he deserves. But he's going to be given some opportunities here, and so he's got to seize them. Whether it's right now
Yeah.
or it's maybe he gets sent down for a little bit and he comes back if there's an injury to somebody and he gets some run on a higher line. Either way, whatever it is, that's the be all end all.
Yeah, I think the important thing is I don't think any fan wants Gushchin to just be a NHL AHL tweener. Like I think eventually if Gushchin's going to make it, you want him in a scoring position. And
Sure,
so
of course.
he still has a long way to go for that. It's
Of course.
probably not going to be this year. So
yeah, and it's good that he at least, even if he is on a fourth line, he's still on a power play at least.
Yeah,
and that's usually actually a sign.
Utility there.
Yeah, the with at least, well, we don't know how Warsawski's going to do it, but in past Sharks coaches, if you're on the power play, that usually means that you're going to be in a game, and in this case, it's the Thursday night game, and so we'll see if that holds for practice tomorrow and practice on Wednesday. But if Gushchin remains on the power play throughout all the practices, and I think that they want to see what he does. He again has forced his way onto the roster. But as a final kind of thought on Gushchin and tying into what I just said, it's a long season. It's 82 games. So,
Sure.
Even whether he had made opening night or not, congratulations to him for doing it. Again, totally deserved it. The best Shark of the preseason. Yeah. But it's a long season. And so if you get sent down in a week or whatever, it's a long season.
And I think to put a last bow on this Gushchin hype train. I don't know.
The goose is loose.
Yeah, the goose is loose. No, I just think it's cool because we over the past year that we've been doing this podcast, we ask like a lot of guests that are involved in the minors or in scouting, like who excites you from the Shark, and they'll say Celebrini and Will Smith, but a lot of people mention Gushchin, right?
That's true. He's sort of the sneaky dark horse guy. Yeah.
Chris Peters, Craig Button, I think mentioned Gushchin as well. Was it Craig Button?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just people you didn't expect, and then here he is getting a chance to show it on the big stage, and people took notice. You're right, like 5 assists in a game, and the way that he had them, people take notice. So the Goosh. All right, let's move on
from the Danil Gushchin hour.
Yeah, it's been Gushchin 20 minutes.
To the Macklin Celebrini hour now.
Yeah, the Macklin Celebrini hype train. Let's start with Macklin. What I found interesting was I remember like when we first signed Macklin and everything, that whole like, will he sign, will he not? Anyway, people were like, oh, they're going to start him second line. You know, like he'll kind of get walked into the NHL, maybe third line. Nope. It's just first line out the gate. Have fun. Here's your team.
In fairness, it's because his only other true competitor for 1C, Mikael Granlund, looks like he's going to be charged with helping out Will Smith. So that's I think that is an important distinction. I think that if Granlund was at center, that it'd be a real competition right now for who is the best center on the Sharks, and there's a good chance that would be the veteran, just a guy that is highly skilled in his own right in Granlund, but has obviously all the experience too. So it's a little bit of a, I don't want to say an asterisk, but there's some context with Celebrini being installed at 1C. But yes, we were asked this. Was it a mailbag or something like, or we just discussed it last week? I think after, or maybe our rookie face-off reactions, just like when would Celebrini be the 1C of the Sharks? And hey, circumstances or not, it appears to be October 10th.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got good line mates too, right? Eklund, Toffoli.
Yep, that 70s line. I know some people don't like that because that's a Kings thing, but hey, it's catchy. So,
yeah, I've had mixed, and we could keep talking about Celebrini. I've had some like mixed thoughts on Toffoli so far. I mean, it's preseason and he's a 12, 13-year vet. Does it really matter? I think he's had some good games and some good moments. I think he was just kind of like, I won't say coasting, but just kind of around.
I honestly, like I said, these games I don't watch guys like that. So.
True. Yeah, like they don't even really.
So
They're just there to skate.
I treat it like maybe some of the those guys do kind of. So,
Yeah, they're there to
and
skate. They're there to get in shape.
I think you guys wanted to hear what I think about Luca, about Jack Thompson, about
100%.
Gushchin anyway. So, and do you keep changing your username? So,
yeah, now it's Celebrini for Emperor.
Nice. Okay, very good. What was the Gushchin one? I thought there was a Gushchin one earlier.
It was Gushchin for president.
Oh, okay. So moving on.
Just keep changing.
Dictator for life, or what's next?
I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm excited. Celebrini is healthy, apparently.
Yes, he is. Yeah, that's a big thing. Obviously, it was very scary after October 1st, but we told you immediately that it wasn't that serious. That's what someone told me the next day, and then the Sharks said it too, and then the Mercury News also had it too. So 3 different places told you that he was fine, and he looks like he's fine. So yeah, it's exciting. Just exciting to see that unroll. Exciting to see him against real competition. He's kind of dummied lower competition, which is super impressive for 18-year-old, and even a preseason, right? It's NHL, but it's still the real deal is not. He hasn't faced a real deal. Gushchin has faced a real deal. Going back to Gushchin, but Gushchin hasn't faced a real deal night after night after night, and so it's really it really isn't a different game. And I mean, just even look at playoff hockey. Look at like Game 7, Florida Edmonton versus what we watched from the Sharks last year. Like there are levels to this, and we're not there yet with Celebrini or Gushchin or a lot of these young guys we're going to talk about. But excited to see how he reacts to it. My prediction is that he's going to be just fine, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think there'll be some adjustment games,
some
periods where
he needs to get stronger, right? Like any 18-year-old, but
he's still gonna have moments, and he's still gonna show us. Like, I think we got to do like a season predictions. That'll be, I think, next week's podcast, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think we'll have time because I don't know. Season's gonna start on Thursday, so we can we'll do like a quick one in. Yeah, so
we get a little bit of a freebie, right? Like one freebie game. I was gonna say because we got to predict points and like who's gonna be the points leader.
Yeah.
But Celebrini for Emperor. That's all I got to say. Let's move on to Will Smith.
Yep.
I think that's a natural kind of 1-2 progression here. So Will Smith was put on. This is again lines that could change at any time, but on the second line with Granlund being kind of his babysitter on that line,
and he's been playing with Granlund for the last week or so too. So this looks like this could hold. It was Granlund, Smith, and Zetterlund.
Mixed. I think like there's parts of me that's very excited. I think that Granlund's going to have to take a lot of the responsibilities from that line. And then I think Will Smith's going to do great on the power play.
Yeah, one thing you guys should look at, or you shouldn't look at, is Will Smith's face-off numbers in preseason. I know face-off's not the biggest deal in the world, but I think it's going to be roughly about 30 to 35%. So
that's about right. That's most kids that come out. Like they're just not as good as the guys that are stronger and just the reps of doing it over and over and over again. And they know the player that they're facing off against, their style, how they do it. So, yeah, it's going to be bad. But he's got to learn somehow. And I think that it's interesting the Sharks just, at least right now, are just kind of going gung-ho. 1 and 2, these are our guys for the future, so let's just try it out right now. It's interesting.
Right. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, let's be honest, in a pure meritocracy, that Gushchin would be in over Smith in the top 6. Like, let's not mince any words on that. But I think that with the Smith, though, that I think that they want to see what he can do. They want to give him that chance. He did sign. He didn't have to. I think that's one of the things that people forget when they talk about, and I think this is going to be a bigger deal over the years than maybe people are making it out to be right now. But obviously we saw with the NCAA players and how much leverage they have, and with Cutter Gauthier and Rucker McGrowdy, that for a guy to come out, you have to give him a reason to.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm not trying to withhold anything or be coy. But I would highly suspect, though, that for a Smith to sign, that you got to kind of let him know he's going to get a chance. And it doesn't mean that he's going to get all 82 games to not be good in the NHL. We'll see about that. I could see him ending up in the AHL at some point. I don't know that for a fact. I know that he has said, of course, that he's willing to, but don't know if that's just a public statement. But I would say that that is possible that he needs that seasoning, and there's nothing wrong with that. I could also see a alternate, and I think that's what the Sharks are testing out here. That one thing I'll give Will credit is that I think that he has been better with each preseason game. And granted, it's just preseason, and granted, he has not dominated a preseason game, but he's gotten better and better. And so, can he get better and better by opening night and so on, right? It's going to be hard. It's hard to develop and learn in the NHL. And the cliche is the NHL is not a development league, and sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But it's hard. It is definitely a hard league to kind of develop in. But one thing about Will that is understated, and you and I agree on this. We talk about this constantly with him, is that he is a very, very smart player. And that, I think, is going to help him. It's not just about being the strongest, which he isn't, or the fastest, which he isn't. It's the brain. And so can the brain kind of help keep him in the NHL and help keep him in a useful role? I think remains to be seen. My prediction is that they start him at center, they move him to wing, and if it doesn't work, then they do move him to they do send him down to AHL. That's just my prediction. I don't know this for a fact that that's the way that things will go, but I think that there is also a chance. Still, I'm not predicting that that's exactly what will happen, but that's my kind of my guess of the path. If the path is the AHL. But there is also another path, though, that a player as smart as a Will Smith, and I think that he is as smart as a Macklin Celebrini in terms of seeing the game. That's my belief, or my sort of my scouting observation, though I'm not a scout, but that he can pick it up fast enough that in a month we'll be talking about, okay, he's doing okay. And he does belong here. It actually would not surprise me if that were the case. And if I were to compare him to one guy, I've made this comparison before, but if you remember William Eklund, his very first season, right? That kind of 8-9 game cup of coffee, right? Where William showed actually a lot of smarts, but his body was not even close. I mean, he looked like a boy out there, right? And Will doesn't have quite that problem. While Will Smith isn't built like a Macklin Celebrini, it certainly isn't built like a Clean Costin. That he isn't, though, as far physically behind as Eklund was in Eklund's, what is this, 18-year-old season, basically his first draft year, right? And or his first, the first season after he got drafted. Will's got a year on that, and Will Smith doesn't look like that. And so I think that's also a thing that's going to help too, because I think that because Eklund really impressed me in that sample size as being one of the smartest Sharks out there, if not the smartest Sharks forward of that time period, maybe one of the smartest. I don't want to oversell it, but that he was also, granted, a very weak Sharks team, but I thought he was one of the Sharks' 9 best forwards, even in that sample size, even as he was being bullied and he was clearly trying to avoid some of the worst traffic areas, not because he was afraid as cowardly, but just that he knew he was going to get killed. He was literally trying to avoid being injured for life or something like that. And Will is stronger, and so I think that's gonna help him out too as he tries to develop in the NHL. But yeah, in fairness, though, I think though that is what we're gonna see with Will Smith in terms of he is a little bit of a maybe experiment to some degree, but I think the belief is he's mentally strong enough to handle it, which I think he is. He is a super smart player, not just smart, but he's a super smart player. And so there's a chance that it works out. And again, we're talking about this in a month, and he's doing just fine in NHL.
Will's always on different teams and everything, or different games I've watched him. He's always a guy that adapts really, really well to the scenarios that he's on, like the line mates that he has, the way that he needs to create offense. And I think it's just going to be a repetition thing with him. I think he's going to need, and I think that's what they're hoping on, is that he gets to game 21 and he just starts to get a little bit more comfortable, and 21's an arbitrary number, but you know what I mean. It's just like, he's such a smart player and has a lot of skills and sees the game so well that it might just be a repetition thing. And I think the people on Twitter that were like, well, why doesn't Smith go down to the AHL and Gushchin stay up? I wasn't even on board with that because I think it's dumb. I think if anything, it's the guys on the bottom of the roster that really had to prove that they had to be there. Smith, we know what his skill set is, and we know what his future holds for the Sharks, hopefully, and they hold him in such a regard. And he came out of college to play here.
That's like, the reality of it too.
You gotta be on the Sharks roster.
One scout, not with the Sharks, was just like, yeah, we don't know what kind of NLI money he was making. He just stayed at college, hung out with his buddies, went to sorority parties, and like I said, he was making money, some kind of NLI. We don't know how much, but I'm sure he's making some kind of money too. So
I wouldn't have been mad if Gushchin had been sent down and Smith was up. I wouldn't be mad at Smith. I would have been mad that they couldn't have found a way to waive somebody else to get Goose up. So just want to put that out there because people were suggesting that why doesn't Smith go down? And I don't think, and he still has the skills to be in that middle six center role for the Sharks, I think, right now. Just a lot of it needs to kind of come together.
Yeah, I mean, I think center is going to be tough, honestly. That's why I predict center to wing pretty quickly. That's my prediction. I hope he proves me wrong.
Well, I think it's kind of like maybe it's interesting though because if he was going to play, you'd figure he'd play right wing, and Zetterlund's already like pretty stapled into the right wing. I don't know if he plays left wing at all. So it's like, does Granlund come over and then they move Zetterlund off and then move around? I don't know.
I don't know about that part of it, but. And obviously, Granlund beyond that line, I will take a lot of center responsibilities anyway. I think defensively and face-offs too and stuff like that. So,
and he's going to be getting a lot of his utility on the power play, but I'm not really that worried about Will Smith. I think it's going to be a year.
I'm not. It doesn't matter. Yeah, if he ends up in the AHL or for a spell, right? As long as he's getting better, I think that's the only thing that you look at a guy like him. That like he's a guy that I think can get better fast too. And so I think there's a good chance that Will Smith today will be a much different player by April this year. And it'll be very, very noticeable. And it does happen too. It's not a perfect example. And I've used this more for Celebrini because they're both number one picks. But years ago, not the same player, once again, not the same type of player, but Steven Stamkos, first couple months in Tampa Bay, right after he got drafted, I think he scored two goals or 3 goals in his first 2 months, and people were clowning him, talking about, seen Stamkos. I don't know if you guys remember that ad campaign, who's seen him? Yeah, because he only has a couple of goals after 2 months. And then Steven caught fire. He scored, I think, 20 goals, in the last 4 or 5 months of the season. He ended up with 23, which is very, very respectable for a 18-year-old rookie. So I'm not saying that's going to happen exactly with Will Smith, but it does happen though that these sort of prodigy players that they pick it up fast and they pick it up as the season is going. It doesn't take a summer of training for them to pick it up.
Yeah, we said that last time. His college of I don't know if it's last episode, but we said it sometime recently. His college October was so different from his college April that they look like two different players. Like he was like in the first part of the year to the end of the year, completely different. Not like totally different in terms of how they play, but just in terms of impact. Right? Like game in, game out, he was dominant in the NCAA. So
the Sharks, I guess another way to put it, the Sharks aren't trying to win a Stanley Cup here in October. I think we all know this, right? And that's fine, right? And it's better to have Smith here under contract, playing in the NHL, testing him out there and seeing if he can do it, or as opposed to being back at BC unhappy, or whatever the case could be. I want to be in NHL. I think I'm close enough. I want to try it. The Sharks won't let me. Okay, well, the next words are trade me, which is what you don't want.
All right, who are we moving on to next?
Oh boy, let's see. I don't know.
Let's get a roster.
roster.
I mean, I should.
Yeah,
I
we
should
don't.
lead this.
Actually, yeah. Let's. We don't. We're not going to go over everybody on a roster.
Sure.
So I think we forgot to say we should at least say all 15 forwards that made it because we are a news podcast. So we talked about Gushchin, Smith, and Celebrini. Also, Ty Dellandrea, William Macklin, Barclay Goodrow, Mikhail Granlund, Grudstrom, Costin, Luke Kunin, Giovanni Smith, Nico Sturm, Tyler Toffoli, Alex Wunberg, and Fabian Zetterlund. And so we'll repeat that when we get to the defense and goalies. But okay, let's talk about then. I just want to make this quick point about Luke Kunin and also too guys that will bucket in with him: Barclay Goodrow, Nico Sturm. Who else? We got Carl Grundstrom, Ty Dellandrea. I know that because of I think that Goodrow and Kunin get the brunt of sort of the online whatever, right? The online hate or whatever. But I think it's really, really important to remember that the team doesn't see things that way. And so if you want to get angry, well, get angry, right? It's a free country. I'm not telling you not to, but you have to understand what teams are seeing here with these players. And so I've written this a couple times, so I think it's worth repeating that. Okay, after the Vegas game, and hey, let's give credit to Luke Kunin too, that he scored the fourth and the tying goal on Gushchin's assist, and that's Luke doing good Luke things, getting in front of the net, getting his stick right, good hands to get a stick on those pucks. But anyway, Ryan Warsofsky on Luke Kunin after the game. And I quote, "He's a hockey player, right? He's a competitor. He's tough, mentally, physically, gives you everything he's got. Great teammate. I cannot say enough good things about Luke Kunin." And he added, "Coming in great shape. He's moving better. He's making plays. Thought it was the best game of the preseason and liked them all at training camp. He's been a good leader, good influence too on the younger players. And of course, Luke Kunin is the alternate captain of the Sharks. And so all these players that people, well, just trade Luke Kunin and install Danil Gushchin. That's not how a good team is built with necessarily. I'm not saying necessarily that that 1-for-1 swap couldn't make the team better. I don't know in particular, but let's give these guys like Kunin their value too. And we saw this last year with how the Sharks built their team. And I've said this many times: the Sharks built their team with a bunch of offense first guys who didn't score. And what happened? That put strain on the defense. And that put strain on the defense. That put strain on the entire team defense. You weren't scoring, and you had guys who couldn't defend all over the ice. What does that do? That strain on your goaltending. And so you have to face Mackenzie Blackwood has to face 35, 40 shots a night.
Yeah.
So that's not a good model for a team. I'm not saying Gushchin is that type of player, right? But it's not as simple as, oh, this guy is skilled, and this guy, if you give him a lot, he can do a lot, and we want this guy. No, you want a guy also. You want to mix a team. You want a team building. You want a mix of guys. And so you want a Luke Kunin on your team. You want a Danil Gushchin too. But anyway, so I'm bucketing in all these guys: Dellandrea, Goodrow, Kunin, Grundstrom, Sturm, all these guys are important for winning. And so don't sell them short. I think that actually this group of guys, not just Kunin, but the guys that they added to kind of supplement Kunin in these areas, they're going to be a big part of making the Sharks a better team, not just sort of compete and all the stuff that you hear about, but also too, they're going to make the team better defensively. They're going to help out the defensemen. They're going to be more responsible on the back checks. They're going to be better on the forward checks so the puck never ends up in the defensive zone, hopefully less at least. It's not going to be a huge difference. I'm not predicting the Sharks team to make the playoffs or anything like that, but I think that this is going to save the Sharks, Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, all those guys, a lot of embarrassment this year, guys like this. And so I don't have any issue with any of these guys being on a roster, even if it meant Danil Gushchin sitting with the Barracuda for a couple of weeks, maybe.
I think I agree with parts of what you're saying. I think I 100% that the team has to be constructed in a more balanced way. And this is actually one of the first training camps I can remember where I'm not like, that guy needs to get the hell out of there. Like, all these guys that are here have done pretty well in training camp. Like, there's not like the
even the much maligned Giovanni Smith.
Yeah, I actually don't even think Giovanni Smith has been bad. I think he's actually been pretty decent most times that I've seen him play. Like, when I've actually paid attention to Giovanni Smith play, I haven't hated it. It's just, I think that's like preseason and he did okay. I don't think he's, after watching him 40 games last year, I don't think that there's going to be too much different with Giovanni Smith's game this year. But
I think he's been good in preseason. I think he's been better than last season. But anyway,
But I don't think that's. Yeah, I think the proof was in the 40 games last year. But we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, he was better in preseason, but it's just preseason, so he may be the first on a chopping block after a slow start this year.
But I agree with what you're saying. That I think the group is so much better in the bottom six, even though a lot of these guys do have similar qualities like Grunstrom and Sturm and Delandria and what have you.
And they're limited offensively.
Yeah, but there are some guys that can kind of play up and down, right? Like Kostin can play kind of more up if somebody gets injured, so it's an interesting depth option. I don't know. I've liked what Grunstrom has done. I've actually liked his play a lot this preseason. Not that he's done a lot, but I think that he's just defensively pretty good. And Sturm is Sturm. So I'm not mad that any of them are here. I would be mad if Gushchin didn't make it over somebody.
It's all about Gushchin, right?
I would have been mad. Because again, guys like, these guys get a shit ton of time to prove it. And I think it would have been just a little bit short-sighted to send him down. But they didn't. They
would have brought him back. They would have brought him back. I know it matters, but they would have brought him back.
I don't know. But either way, Mike Greer continues to keep the faith with me. So, because I always
you think he did it for you? Maybe he just did it for you.
Me. He read my tweets.
15.62 is pretty unusual. So maybe he just saw your Twitter diatribe and he was like, "Man, that Keegan's had my back all summer. He's had my back since last year."
A while, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been reading it and you went, you know what? Fine. He gets like a game. He's going to get 7 minutes.
Fuck that Sheng guy who keeps talking about my last season. Last season's last season. But Keegan's always had my back.
No, he's going to get 7 minutes and get sent right back. No, I'm kidding. We'll see. But either way, I did like Luke Kunin's game. I thought you're right. He did Luke Kunin things. He was around the net and hungry for the puck. And I liked that a lot. And I wanted to shout out Kostin's game too, in some ways, because sometimes I'm like, Kostin, you said this to me the other night. You sent me a text.
Well, I sent you a clip.
A clip.
Actually, I mean the clip. I didn't put the clip in my story, but I can describe the play because I had no idea what he was doing. So it was the end of the Anaheim, right? October the last home game, the October 4th game, and it's 20 seconds left in the game, and the score is 2-2, and he gets the puck on the wall. I don't remember the defenseman, and he has a choice of what to do. And granted, there's a forecheck on him, and so the obvious move there is to just forehand it off the glass and out. But okay, there's a forecheck there, so maybe he can make that play. But he chooses to do a spin backhand pass up the middle that's intercepted with 20 seconds left of a tied game. And it didn't end up anywhere, but that's the kind of thing that a coach looks at. They're like, we can't play this guy. I can't trust this guy. I don't know if he's going to be Evgeny Malkin on one shift and and be this guy another shift. And so that was, I know it's just one play. It's preseason, but that was a bad play. That's just kind of play that like that's a play that basically Kostin with all his physical tools should be entrenched in the NHL lineup somewhere. And if it was more consistent, it would be, because he would be kind of like your third line moving to up here. I mean, kind of like, there's a lot going on with this guy. So I don't mean in this way, but like a poor man's Valery Nichushkin. It's just a total package of skills and whatever.
Yeah.
He's not as good as Nichushkin,
For
but
sure.
could Costin, if everything came together, be a decent second, third liner? I can see it. You can see it at times. But
Yeah.
plays like that, though, that I'm describing, that just like, what are
They
you
happen every
thinking?
game.
Yeah, they kind of happen pretty regularly with him, too. It's not just a one-time thing. Like, 20 seconds tight game. It's clear you just want to get to overtime in a real NHL situation. Obviously, preseason doesn't matter. The point doesn't matter. But if you're in an NHL game and you do that, and then the puck goes in the back of the net next thing, and you lose the game, you don't get that 1 point. That's sayonara. See you with the Barracuda, maybe. And so, anyway, that's the kind of play that I looked at. Just like that's what's holding him back.
Yeah, if you could somehow make Costin only play in like the 12-foot square of the opponent's net, I think he would be a super good hockey player. Because like he caught that pass from Gushin and then immediately scores.
There's things he does that nobody else on the Sharks can do. Like going back to
off the wall from Will Smith, and he pots it right in the net.
The
like
September whatever, the first game in Anaheim, the one that they won, that Romanov played, right? That Gushin had the assist there. Costin plants himself in the net, and there's no Shark that's strong enough to do that and also put it in. There isn't. Yep. Tomas Hertl was the last Shark that I think could do that combination of things of size and strength and skill. So that is his ceiling, but the lows are so low. It's not just like the regular lows. Like Gushin has lows like that. Some lows where he makes bad plays. Maybe he shouldn't have made that pass in a neutral zone, but that's where Gushin has kind of ironed things out, where I don't see as many of the super lows, like what are you doing kind of plays.
Yeah, exactly.
And Costin's 25, and that's the thing that is sort of, like Musty was doing stuff like that, but Musty's 19, and so that's it's fine. But that's I that's what gives me pause with Costin, but I understand why Mike wanted to keep him.
Yeah,
he's not waiver exempt, and Giovanni Smith we'll get to too, but kind of the same bucket of guys that maybe on better teams, maybe you waive them, but that they both bring something that let's keep this guy too.
Yeah, it's kind of the 12 forwards we got, then the 3 extras, right? Like the Gushin is like none of the extras are gonna do what Gushin can do. Like Giovanni Smith, it's like the physicality plus like he fights and he it's like his role, right? And then
he's been better with the puck in the preseason. So if that translates, I think that's what got him this sort of kept him here, in my opinion, because we always knew he could fight, but he was very, very poor with the puck last year. Yeah. And I think that again, just preseason, but he was decent to good with the puck. So noticeably better.
And then Costin, it's like he's the net front, big body, good shot kind of.
But he's inconsistent, so that's why he sits.
Yeah. So they all have their own that's why they're still on the team. As opposed to like plug and play Gaudreau, Delandria, Grundstrom, Sturm, Kunin, who are all kind of the same player. Not like exactly the same player, but they're all sort of
same profile.
Third, fourth line, good defensively. Can pot you a few goals kind of thing, provide some energy and some hits, but that's kind of it. So then they just got some extra options, I think. And and then Wenberg has been we should talk about Wenberg. I don't know if you've been watching much Wenberg.
A little bit, I may have mentioned this to you before, but like in the scrimmages, I was never looking for him because, like I said, I only watch the young players. But anytime something good was happening on ice in the scrimmages, it was Wenberg. He looked like Andrei Kopitar in the scrimmages, but he hasn't looked so good in the preseason from what I've seen. But he's a veteran, so I don't watch him that closely. And so if this extends, if he's like this for 10, 20 games of regular season, I mean, you can say about any of the veterans, Tyler Toffoli, Mikhail Granlund, then I get worried. But for now, I'm going to go with just all the credentials he's built over the past, his career sort of numbers and the sort of goodwill that he's accrued. And right now, he is probably one of the best third line centers in the league, or one of the, I think so. I haven't looked at every third line center, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but he's a very good third line center. He's a guy that should really help the Sharks there. But obviously, yeah, this game's got to take another step from preseason.
Yeah. I'd put him, I guess, in the top bucket. I think the top 50% of third line centers, probably.
I don't know. I look at everyone, but that's my guess, though. I mean, maybe I'm just looking based on past recent Sharks third line centers who were not offensively talented enough, or were too old, or just didn't belong in the NHL. And yeah, in comparison, they brought in Macklin Celebrini as 3C basically in Wenberg. But anyway,
what I'm hoping is just preseason with Alex Wenberg is that what I've seen from him is that he seems really confident in the plays that he makes, but I think a lot of times it's the wrong play. Like, I don't know why, but he's super confident in it. Like the way that his body language is, the way that he's like, I'm going to put that pass through this guy to this guy. But it's like, why did you do that? There was a better play open right next to you. I don't know. It's just, that was what I kept seeing from him. And then it also just doesn't seem like he's wants to shoot all the time. He's not.
That's
really
always been a Wenberg problem, so to speak. He's never been a big shooter. I think that I looked at some stats. I'm pretty sure he was like he was like Joe Thornton-esque in terms of his unwillingness to shoot. So hopefully, that's not going to change. That's not going to change with the Sharks.
Oh yeah. But I mean, just like the decision making stuff. And again, a lot of these guys are using this time as like get my body back into game shape and like get my mind right kind of thing. They're not like balls to the wall. Wenberg makes $5 million. He knows he's not going anywhere. Like,
I'm pretty sure I said this when the Sharks signed him too. And this is talking to scouts. Like, he is a guy that you look at him sometimes and he should be maybe a second. He has the ability to be a second line guy. He has, obviously he's big, he's strong, he can skate, he has great hands. So he's a guy that probably will leave you wanting a little bit. But I think though, unlike say a Costin, that Wenberg at least has cut out the sort of the what are you doing plays.
Yeah.
and Wenberg too is defensively conscientious. So that's gonna help things out too. So we obviously will see, but I wasn't watching that closely, but I expected him to be good. But you do make a great point about the shooting part, though. So I think today he was on a line with. Oh, either way, you want to put him on a line with shooters, and so that could be a Gushchin, that could be a Grundstrom who shoots a lot. And who was he with today? He was a Kunin and Gaudreau. Okay, so Kunin can shoot it a bit, but yeah. So anyway, though, that you want to put him with a shooter, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of your.
That's obvious. There. Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about Kunin and Wenberg, and a little bit about Grundstrom and Kostin, Gushchin. We're hitting like all the forwards. I don't know if.
I don't know if there's anyone big that,
Zetterlund was fine.
Yeah, Zetterlund, we talked about this. He's got to prove that he's not just a 20-goal scorer on a bad team, because that's not that valuable. Yeah. But things he does, his physicality, his desire, how strong he is, and good skater too, suggests that he can be more than that, but he's got to prove it hopefully on a better Sharks team.
Yeah, with some better line mates, right? I think. Hopefully.
Well, he had the Sharks' best line mates last year, so
true. He had Granlund, and
he had Granlund, and actually Will Smith isn't necessarily upgrade on William Macklin, but
but he is getting first power play time. I thought that's interesting.
He got that last year too, though. But it is interesting. You're right, though, that he continues to get it with a deeper Sharks lineup. So that's true.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the better shooters the Sharks have. So. All right, let's talk about the guys that didn't make it from the forward group.
Yeah, nothing to say about our Prince William Macklin, our Lord and Savior.
I got to
just want to make sure if you don't have much, we expect a big year out of William. We'll leave it at that.
Macklin for ruler of the universe.
Ruler of the universe. Okay,
there it is.
Okay, so he is actually the most powerful one of them all. Okay, that's fine.
I mean, he's the original, right?
Like, he's original. Yeah, he's the
original
OG. Well, actually, people are gonna forget that it was Ryan Merkley. That
you're right.
But we don't
Got
talk
him
about that
for
anymore.
Ryan Merkley.
You betrayed us. You were supposed to be the chosen one.
You were the chosen one.
Yeah. So
Yeah. He's over there in. Is he still in Kunlun?
I think so. Yeah.
Killing it, probably. I'm gonna guess that Ryan Merkley is like near a point per game in the KHL.
No, he's not. He's not actually.
Really?
But
I'm gonna find out.
Oh, he wasn't last year. I don't know about this year, but he wasn't last year. So.
Okay. I have to know.
No,
he's not. He's not at all. He's about a half point per game.
Yeah, he was. That's what he was last year. I don't know. Yeah. Is that where he's at this year too?
Yeah, he has 5 points in 12 games, so he actually is less than half point a game.
Wow. Okay, about though. Okay.
Yeah. Ryan Merkley. Playing with other Sharks legends, I'm sure. Is there anybody else that's on that team from the Sharks? Oh, but
sure there is.
Neil Yakubov and Tomas Yurko.
Oh, that's right. Yakubov is on that
Danny
team.
O'Regan, our favorite.
There you go.
There you go.
There's a Sharks legend on there.
And Jaden Halbgewachs.
Another Sharks legend.
5'7".
Former Barracuda teammates there. Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote an article many years ago on my website about the comparison between Gushchin and Halbgewachs.
Halbgewachs, yeah.
Halbgewachs.
Halbgewachs. Yeah, I don't know.
Halbgewachs.
You don't have to double the E there.
And just why I thought that Gushchin might have a better shot of making the NHL than Halbgewachs.
His name is easier to say.
His name is slightly easier to say. Anyway, Eklund was fine. I thought he was okay. I think he's going to keep.
He's got to be better too, but for him, it's just preseason. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's be interesting to see him play with a guy like Celebrini. I think that's going to be a super interesting line for the beginning.
Yeah. I think so. Actually, a scout did ask me who. Oh, this isn't Eklund related. I actually was thinking like who Gushchin should be in a top 6 with if you did put Gushchin in a top 6, and I was thinking Celebrini and Toffoli and then reunite the Lund line. But anyway, so
yeah, I would like that. Yeah, I mean. Eklund, Granlund, Zetterlund, and then you put Smith down on the third line or AHL.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so
yeah, I would like it. I think maybe there's not enough grit on that first line, although Celebrini can like hit some folks.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm thinking. Maybe putting up too much on Celebrini, but Celebrini can get the puck. Celebrini can kind of, at least he's done it so far. He can kind of do a little bit of everything for you.
Sure.
And you just have to be open. If you're Tyler Toffoli or Danil Gushchin on my line. So I don't know. It's not a lot of size there, but
yeah,
it'd be fun. It'd be a fun line.
I'm just excited. Like there's just so many guys like Eklund, Smith, Celebrini, and Gushchin are all on the ice at the same time, hopefully on Thursday. I'm just pumped.
Yeah. One thing I would say, I guess extra thing about the forwards is that the power line play lines were interesting that we saw today, and that there is sort of a balance to the power play that I don't recall. Sure. Like last year was definitely the power play had a lot of success at the end of the season, but it was very weighed on Granlund, on Eklund, on Zetterlund. Bordeleau helped out too, but it was very weighed on those forwards in particular, I think, especially after they traded to Duclairov. And what I thought was interesting today is that Macklin didn't make the first power play unit, at least for now. I'm sure he'll be on there in season, but just that there was sort of that but they're pretty balanced looking units though. I just want to pull that up really quick to see if that holds. But Walman, Celebrini, Granlund, Toffoli, and Zetterlund, and Thrun, Gushchin, and Smith, Wenberg, and Eklund. And we'll talk about Thrun a little bit with the defense and sort of the things he's been doing in preseason, because I think he's been sort of under talked about. But anyway, though, yeah, so I think that's a nice balance overall, though.
Yeah, and much improved from prior years, where our second
unit at least.
The second unit was guys like third, fourth liners and stuff that you're like, why are you touching a power play in the NHL?
Yeah.
So that's at least not happening right now.
Right. Yeah.
On paper, at least. Alrighty. The guys that did make it, guys like Ethan Cardwell, Collin, Graf, Thomas Bordeleau. Also, we're not going to really talk.
Oh, right, but he's injured, so yeah.
Yeah, training camp, which is
he's kind of week to week, so
yeah, because And that injury, I felt like it came out of nowhere. Yeah, I just don't
I
really
think
know.
it may have happened at a scrimmage or a practice. Yeah, it didn't happen. I don't think he got to play in a preseason game.
Yep.
And his day to day seems okay. He was at an Earthquakes game with San Jose Earthquakes game with Celebrini and Smith, right? Just a couple days ago there. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, we don't know too much about the injury. We haven't talked with him since the injury, so I think it's just kind of wait and see. And he probably will have to go to the Barracuda and kind of start over a little bit, which is unfortunate. The other guys to talk about, Cardwell. I don't think Cardwell. I mentioned this before. It was going to be a really hard sell for Cardwell to make this roster because Cardwell is kind of what he is the best at. You have guys that are kind of in that range, the Gaudreau, the Kunin, the sort of that bottom six grinder type, right? And so I just think that was going to be hard for him. Whereas with Gushchin, you can argue that Gushchin is one of the top six most skilled Sharks right now, even though you don't build lines that way. But
Sure.
you can make that argument that Gushchin is. But with Cardwell, could you say that Cardwell was one of the best the best six Sharks two-way forwards? You can't, because the Sharks have added significantly in that area. And so, but he had a great camp, and
really
that was a terrific goal, game-winning goals he scored there too. And so, yeah, you just hope that he can build on what he did with the Barracuda last year. Not too disappointed I got sent down, and just wait. We'll see you later in the season. I'm pretty sure he'll get called up this season and make his NHL debut. And then maybe next season will be his chance to really establish himself in the league. And with Graf, we saw, I think, he wanted to be quicker. He wanted to be stronger. We saw that in the preseason, but not quite to the AHL level yet. I think it'll be great. I think it's great for him to go to AHL and get better there. And I think he will. And I think the ideal place for him right now.
Yeah, both guys, I'm not upset that they were cut. I mean, I'm happy that Cardwell showed out as well as he did, and Graf, you're right, made improvements, and I think they're just gonna grow their games in the AHL and become out better.
It's their chance
by next
to.
Year.
Yeah,
that's why I'm putting.
They're gonna get a lot of opportunity to.
As Cardwell Graf 2025. That's my
yeah, that's
my tagline.
That's your platform.
Well, I don't know. I think Cardwell will get some games like you're saying. Maybe Graf too. Who knows? But I'm super excited for him because I know it's like his dream, right? It's this whole podcast. It's like if we made a podcast called the, I don't know, not Showbound, but I don't know. I've got blanking. It's late in the night. I got nothing.
Yeah,
it's like accomplishing.
Let's get to the
pinnacle of your podcast. So anyway, good for them. Let's get to the defensemen.
Yep.
Let's list them first.
Like the six defensemen. Yeah, who made it are Matt Benning. Hold on, I gotta pull that up. Maybe you can beat me to it. Let's see, where's the roster?
Matt Benning, Jan Ruda.
You got it? Okay.
Cody Ceci, Ferraro, Walman, and Henry Thrunderdome.
And Jan Ruda.
I said Jan Ruda.
Did you? Oh, I thought you didn't. Okay.
And we should also mention that players that were put on injured reserve starting the year, guys like Vlasic, Couture.
Well, most technically, Couture and Bartolo will put on IR. I think that Shakir Mugmadulin, Vlasic, and a couple other guys, they were put on something called
season opening non-roster or season injured non-roster.
Exactly sure the cap or all the sort of implications exactly or the reasons why one or the other. But yeah, I'm not quite sure on that. But I think the important thing is that Mugmadulin is practicing, and that he's practiced for a couple days in a row here, and he participated in full today. And so that he should be on track to return soon. We don't know when. We don't know if that's going to be by opening night. And so anyway, otherwise with the defense, that there weren't really any surprises in terms of what we see here. And just my overall thought on that is that these guys are still not considered. The defense is better this year, but it's still not considered one of the better in the league, if we're being honest. And it was a big weak spot last year, though. In their defense last year, no pun intended, that they weren't getting a lot of help from their forwards overall either, whether it be scoring or even just defensively either. And so that's in their defense. But yeah, so this group will have to overperform, and we'll see if they do.
Let's start with Thunderdome.
Sure, yeah, I did want to talk about him a little bit, yeah.
The Henry Thunderdome. I gotta come up with a thing for him. I'm just gonna put Thunderdome. That's my tagline.
That's a pretty good one. I like that. Yeah.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Mad Mac and the Thunderdome. Huh? It's not bad.
Sure, that's good. That's pretty good. It's not awful.
It's not bad. It's not bad. That's not bad.
Okay. I thought he looked good. I mean, mostly. I think he's kind of finding his vibe of what he's going to be as a defender, his role, I guess, and it's interesting that he's getting power play 2 time at least, and just showing a bit more offensive ability.
I mean, I thought the last couple of games he's actually shown some offense that I haven't really seen from him before. Again, just preseason, but
yeah, I liked it. I think ultimately, not that expectations were super high with Thrun, but I think he's going to kind of just get into this 4, 5, 6 range of defensemen for the Sharks, and then he's just going to kind of be around and be pretty good. I think that's ultimately what's going to be happening with Henry Thrun.
Yeah, I have always kind of liked Henry, and I kind of thought that he can settle into a middle pairing guy. And last year was not a great year for him overall, but it was a terrible year for the Sharks. So I don't put that too much on him, but I think people got down on him a little bit last year because he didn't come in and take over, quote unquote, or whatever, right? But yeah, I have hope for him though. It's just preseason once again, and I also say too, I noted this in my diary that he made a couple really good plays in the last game, and then he lost it on the blue line. He was trying to do something, and the forechecker or the checker got to him, and then eventually led to a Vegas goal, like a minute later. But still, that whole chain of events still started with a Thrun turnover, and so there's also that about being too adventurous with the puck there. But I'm kind of wait and see about him. He's not a guy that I watch closely in a preseason, to be honest. I think his role was pretty secure, especially with the injuries to Vlasic and Mukhamadullin. We had kind of speculated that maybe Thrun could get sent down in favor of Mukhamadullin. One thing that is interesting that Henry told me, and also Warsawski talked about, is that they have been kind of working on him to play his offside. And I think that the Sharks kind of see they knew that going into the season that they were a little bit short on right-handed defensemen, and it helps that they got Cody Ceci and they had Matt Benning healthy. But before that, though, it was looking very, very well. Who's going to play on the right side? You only had Jan Ruda healthy, and that's actually, I think that's pretty much all you had healthy, right? More or less, right?
Real quick. Ty Emberson is a second pairing D-man for the Edmonton.
Oh, right. You had Emberson too. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, well, there you go.
Just saying. Remember when I was like, he's going to step right. We could step right into that second line. He did. He's going.
I would say the waivers were very lean this year on defense.
They were not good.
I will say.
I don't know why.
And we'll see. I think it's one of those things where, I mean, it's not exactly like Will Smith, but it's a little bit thing where they're just going to wait, and I bet the Oilers are just going to see if Emerson can handle it, and they'll get wins regardless because the rest of their team is so good. And if you can't, then they'll just make a trade. So
they waived Josh Brown, who they just signed to a 3-year contract. From and he was a right D. They waived him,
right,
and kept up Stetcher, Emberson, and one other guy. I don't remember who. Anyway, I was just following it because I was like,
have you watched him play at all?
I have. He's looked fine. He looked like Emberson from last year. He's still got great skating. He's been steady defensively, and then he will flub the puck occasionally. That's the biggest issue. He flubs the puck, and I don't get it. Anyway.
Well, like most defensemen, there's like very few defensemen that are better than their team. Like Erik Karlsson a couple of years ago with the Sharks, right? Sure. Cale Makar on any team he's on. But there's very, very few. Most defensemen are kind of almost as just good as their team themselves, right? A lot of cases, right? Yeah. So Ty may just end up being one of those guys, right?
His job is to babysit Darnell Nurse and make sure that Nurse doesn't make stupid plays. And if he does,
Okay,
to back him up.
let's go back to the Thunderdome, though.
All right. I just wanted to give myself a little pat on the back for that one. That's all I wanted to do. All right.
But that's true. They didn't waive him, so we did say that. Yeah, maybe they'll waive him. The Sharks will just pick him up again. But
yeah.
Anyway, though, that the Sharks were lacking a right-handed D at least in the middle of the summer, and I think that Henry or maybe Warsawski said that they talked, and that's something that Warsawski told Thrun to do, to kind of add that to his game. And so I think Thrun's been working. We haven't really seen that yet in any of the games, I believe, or maybe we have not a lot. We haven't seen a lot of it yet, but I think that's just the interesting thing that he has been focused on as a young defenseman. Sure. I don't think that they've asked Mukhamadullin to play as offside, so I think that's just an interesting thing that I don't know. I don't know for a fact that they haven't asked Mukhamadullin, but I think that it does seem to be a point of emphasis for Thrun to add to his game. And I did ask Henry about it a little bit. I'm going to write a story about it in the next couple of days, but I think Henry said something like, "Yeah, it's 3 more spots I can play on a team." So yeah, that's a good way to look at it. So that's something that waiting to see what develops this year from that.
I'm naming this next one Walman for treasurer. Do you know why?
Treasure. Yeah, why?
Because he's found money, right?
That's
he's
true.
Found money. I honestly thought I think Walman had a good preseason overall. He's got a good shot. He carries the puck pretty well. He makes some plays sometimes. Yeah, I thought he played pretty good.
A huge opportunity. He got a huge opportunity in front of him. He's on a pretty good power play unit. At least the forwards look pretty good. Yeah. And it's been a successful power play in the preseason, and it was a successful power play last year, at least in the second half of the year. So Walman could be in line for a career year.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously he's never done it before, and he's an older player. And so there is sort of that element of, okay, we'll see. But there is some upside there at least, though. So we can't say that about a ton of the Sharks' defense the last couple of years. There's the offensive upside that there hasn't been a lot of it. And Walman does have a good shot, like you said. And so, and he's looked fine on the power play, at least in the preseason. So so maybe this is going to be his season to kind of to be.
I mean, it's kind of
the number one defenseman on the Sharks, basically. I guess. Yeah,
you could probably predict him to have the highest points for the Sharks defenseman, probably.
Yeah, you should. I think Shakir Mukhamadullin might have something to say about that at the end, but you should.
Yeah, because I mean, last year I think Ferraro had the lead, right? 21 points.
Yeah, that's not a good number. So
yeah, that's a good number for Ferraro generally.
It is a good number for Ferraro, but yeah, you want a guy at least in your 30s or 40s at least.
Yeah, so we'll see. Jake Walman's career high in points is 21 last year, but only 63 games. So
yeah, and he has a propensity to. He has a good shot, so he scored quite a bit on for a defenseman in Detroit. So
yeah,
didn't he have 12 goals in a year? Didn't he have double digit? Right? I think he had 12 and 9. Was that the last 2 years?
He was 12 and 9. Yeah, and then 9 and 9.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah. I liked him on the power play. I'm interested to watch him play. And I still don't understand the entire machinations of that Detroit trade, and I don't think we ever will. But free Jake Walman, free second-round pick, I guess. Great. I think it's very funny.
He's a fun guy. He's a great quote too, as advertised. So he's been fun to have around, at least for us in the media, the last couple of weeks.
Who else? CC and Benning were there, I guess.
Yeah, CC and Benning. I mean, I think the CC, Benning, Ferraro, Ruda, they are kind of in the bucket of a little more defensive leaning and a little bit of, they are examples of guys. I always say this about Ferraro, and obviously Jan Ruda's won a couple Stanley Cups. Cody CC was a top 4 defenseman for a Stanley Cup finalist team. That those are guys that if your team is good, they're going to look better. And it's going to be a big test, I think, for any of these guys because the Sharks don't project to be a great team this year, to see how they'll do. And obviously a guy like Ferraro, Ruda last year, it's hard to stand out and look good when you're not getting a lot of help either. So that's going to be a big part of it. But overall, though, it's a better group than last year, I think.
So.
And it's not a much better group, but maybe they'll surprise us.
The almost made it were Thompson and Cagnoni.
Mm.
Why don't you talk about them while I try and think of a tagline for them?
Sure. I mean, I think with Cagnoni, it's the same thing that he just has a lot to work on defensively. It's really his offense was very, very impressive. He was cool with the puck, as was described many, many times by Drew Remenda and company, right? Like ice water in his veins, all that stuff. Yeah, he showed that in the preseason. He was better for sure in the preseason than I thought he would be. So credit to him. And that's part of the reason why I jumped him in my prospects list. I'm not saying I'm a latecomer on him, so I'm not trying to jump on a train here. So I have no illusions about it, but he was genuinely impressive in a preseason, and he was better than I expected. And I'm not like a huge Cagnoni, like, oh, this guy is gonna run the Sharks power play for the next decade. Yeah, I'm not. So he impressed me quite a bit, but the defense is really still talking with scouts, whatnot. It's still a huge work in progress. It's not close to NHL ready. If it was, he'd be in the lineup because his offense is, at least based on preseason, his offense looks like it can play.
Better than a lot of Sharks
Yeah.
defenders.
Yeah. His offense looks like it can play maybe already. If it was just, if hockey was a half court game and you just had to play offense or half ice game, then yeah, you can put him into the lineup. But of course, hockey isn't. And so yeah, I think he's got to work on defensively. Besides, obviously his size, but we talk about closing plays, and that was a big problem for the Sharks in the preseason. I think part of that's what I saw with Cagnoni. That I personally think, I don't know what you think, but obviously, on the power play blue line, edges are great. He did a phenomenal job keeping the puck in, and he, had some nice, sweet moves in the neutral zone, in the offensive zone, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's his feet are great for that. But in terms of that first step, that first explosiveness, trying to close a play and whatnot, I find that lacking. And that's going to be a problem because not only is that lacking with him, but he also obviously doesn't have a very long reach. So that makes him very, very exposable. That's not a word, but easily exposed on defense.
Yes.
And that's going to be a problem at the NHL level. And that's got to improve. The Luca Cagnoni from right now, even physically, is not NHL ready. It's not, even though he's not going to grow 4 inches, but he's got to get more explosive. So then that stick, that's not very long stick, is going to be on the opposition faster. And so I think that's where I see in terms of, because people say he's a great skater, but I think skating has a lot of elements. And that's what I see, that great edges, great dancing, or great walking the line on a power play where it's more about things like that, right? But in terms of that first step, jump out at you, right? Yeah, explosiveness. I find that pretty lacking with him, and I think that's maybe if I were to point out one thing, that if that gets a lot better, then yeah, he's going to play for a long time in the NHL. But if that doesn't, then that's where the comparisons that people don't like, come in, where you're Ken Addison, maybe even Eric Brandstrom, right? I know different kind of player, but just guys like that don't make it, who are clearly skilled enough for the NHL, but the NHL, as we talked about, is not just a skill game.
Yeah, my tagline, I just want to know, is leave the Thrun, take the Cagnoni.
What does that mean?
You don't know? It's from The Godfather.
Oh,
leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Oh,
The Godfather. So they left.
That is actually a great line. I've seen The Godfather many times, but I don't remember that line. But that is amazing. I got to give you credit. That one over my head.
The Thrun.
That's actually the best one from today.
Good.
That is actually great. Someone's gonna get it. Yeah, someone's gonna get it. That actually is very, very good. It's like Luca Cagnoni, so I missed the boat on that, and so we'll see. I'm trying to catch up now.
You got it. You just rewatch The Godfather. You'll be fine. I'll see you in 4 hours. Okay. Yeah, I thought he had a great preseason. Obviously, I was not upset that he was sent down. I don't think that physically he's ready for the NHL just yet. And
great relative to expectations, but I don't think, like I said, not great enough for the NHL.
Yeah, not physically ready enough, and I think it would be, if he stayed up, it would only be a couple of games before people were like, all right, yeah, he's kind of getting bodied, and that's not on Cagnoni. Honestly, like he's a guy that I thought was going to go to the WHL, and he's not. He's going to the AHL and probably going to play their first power play at
Yeah, there's not
Barracuda.
even a question about that.
So
at this point, yeah,
good for him. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see his development as well. He's only 19. He's got plenty of time. Jack Thompson did all right for a little while there. I think he kind of maybe fell off a little bit towards the end of the preseason, but I thought he had some good games in there.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he was pretty solid for preseason, but I didn't see enough overall that, like with Cagnoni, the offense jumped out, but the defense was weak. Whereas for Thompson, I would say that nothing was really weak, but nothing was really outstanding too, right? Whereas for Cagnoni, there was something outstanding, and so they were both in similar buckets, except that Thompson would have been a clear choice for a number 7 defenseman because he is more experienced, he's stronger, everything. Also, too, and I mentioned this, I think, in something I wrote yesterday, that you don't want Luca Cagnoni to be number 7 and sit on the bench anyway. That really does a disservice to him. And so Cagnoni's the younger prospect with more runway. Thompson's older. You can sit Thompson a game or two. Cagnoni, I don't think you want that. So Thompson, I'm gonna watch closely in the AHL. Maybe I'm kind of wrong about him a little bit, but like he didn't I don't know. I'm not sure about his NHL future yet because he is older, so I'm not as convinced about it as Cagnoni. If he irons out a couple of things, then I feel pretty good about his NHL future. Whereas Thompson, yeah, we'll see what his ceiling ends up being.
I can't think of one for Thompson.
Don't put so much pressure on yourself, all right?
Thompson.
It's fine.
All right, but
it's
those
fine.
are the guys that didn't make it. I think overall, Thompson.
That was pretty funny, actually, by
He's
itself.
Fine. He was fine. Like I agree. He did okay.
I'm really excited though for the potential Ethan Cardwell, Jack Thompson. I mean, they grew up like they're neighbors. It's really amazing. Awesome. And it would have been cool to see him with the Sharks together just for that.
Yeah. And maybe hopefully one time this year that they both get called up for something. Hopefully. All right. Should we talk about our other Lord and Savior, Yaroslav Askarov? Is it time?
No, well, let's give a little more shine to Shakir Mukhamadullin. Shakir Mukhamadullin, I believe, will make his presence felt on his blue line this year, but obviously coming back from injury, may not be ready for opening night. But I just want to make sure that I put that out there because I'm a big fan of his game based on what I saw. We're both big fans of his game, and yeah. The Sharks' defense is wide open for him. So be curious to see where he ends up by the end of the year.
I think I was kind of worried about how they would fit everybody. And honestly, it ended up being that they were kind of short on defense, which I thought was funny.
Right.
It's how it happens every year. We're always like, man, there's 9-10 guys. How are they going to fit it? And then, injuries happen and people get moved.
But then none of the forwards ever got hurt. So there was the goose panic. So
yeah, the goose panic.
the great goose panic.
The great goose panic. I was pretty panicked.
Well, Bordelot got hurt too, but Bordelot was always kind of a tweener guy or edge of a fringe guy. But none of the core, I guess, forwards got hurt.
Yeah, I do wonder what would happen right now if Bordelot was there. I mean, you'd imagine maybe he'd go down. Goose would still be up if all the things happen the way that they did. But you never know. They might have value.
Maybe Bordelot puts up a Kevin LeBanc performance and pops in 6 goals in the preseason. So congrats to Kevin, by the way, for signing with Columbus. So
yeah, that was awesome.
That's actually pretty cool.
All of his goals just to catch up on all the things. He looked like he was like not vintage. Like vintage Kevin LeBanc, just shooting on the power play, really super hard wrist shots, and it was just
engaged. I watch highlights. You just looked engaged and just happy to be on a power play and get a chance at things like that. And I just think it's not often that you go from PTO to get that actual contract. Doesn't matter if you were Kevin LeBanc, you're coming off a 4-year, $19 million contract. It's just unusual. It's rare. So I think that's really cool. So congrats to him.
Yeah. And I said this for years that I really wanted Kevin Labanc to play hockey somewhere else than San Jose, and I'm
Well,
just
there you go.
excited
He's
to
gonna get
watch
a
him
chance.
play
So yeah.
somewhere else because he just needed to play. And he's getting, I think he got slotted into like the second line in Columbus. So
Oh, did you? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
something
Well,
like
he's
that.
gonna get his chance then. Yeah.
Good for Kevin. And like you said about Mukamadulin, excited to see him hopefully with the Sharks soon. I don't know what this whole non-injured, non-roster business is. Hopefully it's not like, I don't know.
If he's practicing, he should be back soon.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Our goalies are Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood.
I'm gonna make it's not a hot take or that bold a prediction, but I think that Vitek's gonna be the opening night starter. Vitek has been better than Blackwood in a preseason, and not to take anything away from Mackenzie. Mackenzie has been good too, I think, but Vitek has been better, and that's just my feel of the situation. Obviously, Blackwood has been good in the preseason, and he is the incumbent guy, and he did get more games in the preseason, so maybe that trends toward Blackwood. But I don't know. I think Vitek has definitely made a strong case, right? Granted, it's just 90 minutes of play, but those were very good 90 minutes of play. 944 save percentage in those 90 minutes. Again, just preseason, but that's. Yeah, I want to got to give him a lot of credit though. He's been very good this preseason. I guess that's the point of it. So whatever happens for opening night.
Yeah, I don't know what I guess I just didn't expect that much, but he's been awesome every time I've watched him play. So
I brought this up constantly that before last year, 2021 to 2023, he was the best goalie on the Sharks roster. Askarov was too young, and Blackwood was scuffling in New Jersey. So.
Yep. So Vanacek is the current Lord of the Net, probably.
We don't know that yet. What do you think? Do you think they'll go?
I honestly,
Warsawski was coy about Warsawski. We asked him today, Monday, about it. He said basically that they have an idea of who they're going to lean with, but they haven't told the person. I mean, it's not this. Maybe they haven't decided yet, but that yeah. And so when you say that, it kind of suggests to me that maybe it's based on just preseason. If it's just based on strict preseason play, that it probably would be Vanacek.
I just think if they were gonna do Blackwood, they probably would be like, yeah, it's Blackwood, maybe, or I don't know.
Maybe,
I feel like
maybe, yeah.
We
don't know Warsawski's coach speak or
True.
his mannerisms yet, but yeah, that's a fair kind of, fair kind of thought.
I think they kind of go, 1A, 1B the whole season, though. No, the whole season until maybe Askarov comes around. But I think I don't know if it's going to be a consistent starter thing.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. We actually have never there's so much going on in this camp. So we actually have never sort of checked in with Warsawski about sort of his philosophy with that. Typically, coaches do seem to like a little more reliability. So they have sort of a one to some degree, if possible. But I don't know. We'll see. There's some good upside here though, because both Vanacek and Blackwood in recent history, Blackwood last year and Vanacek in the years prior to last year, have been very good goalies, and so the Sharks might have a pretty solid kind of 1A two-headed monster, and we haven't even got to Askarov yet.
What I find super interesting is just the way that Mike Grier has structured this whole thing is that you have two guys both in their like late 20s, kind of hitting the prime of their goaltending age, both on UFA contracts or UFA expiring deals, and both and then the guy behind them is like the super young there's like a lot of internal competition, and then one of them could get a big contract from the Sharks if they play well enough. I
guess it would be hilarious if the Sharks signed Blackwood or Vanacek to an 8-year contract.
I don't know about 8 years, but like something like a 3
I just think about the Charles Charles Askarov thing, but no, the it's clearly I don't want to say clearly, but all signs point to it being Askarov's net in the future, in the near future.
Yeah. But he left the options open for Askarov to take it, or if one of these guys are just too good, you have to keep them, you keep them.
Sure.
And if not, then you dump them, and then you still have Askarov in the back. I just really, that's a good, just, patting Mike Grier on the back today. He's making all the right moves. Yeah, also dumb Twitter things. Askarov getting sent down, and then like 7 different beat reporters not mentioning that he's been injured for weeks, and they're like, Askarov gets the cut from the Sharks roster, and it's like, fuck you, dude.
It's accurate. That's how you
I
describe
know, but
roster
it's not.
cuts, but definitely could use a different extra context though.
I know it
And
was
with everything that's
intentionally.
happened with Askarov over the summer, definitely could use some extra context.
I know, and it's just me being a little pissed about it because like everybody blatantly saw it and was like, "Come on, you're missing the point."
It's a different situation too. I actually have a story about that. I spoke with Dan Milstein, Askarov's agent. The one thing I'll say about the story is that just basically he's fine in the AHL.
Yeah,
So it's just that don't get into all the details because Askarov doesn't want to talk about all the details with Milwaukee and Nashville, but it's just clearly a different situation here. Is the summary of it? So
yeah, it's exactly what we mentioned. Like
yeah,
both the guys ahead of him are on expiring deals, and Nashville they signed a goaltender ahead of him, and they have the guy with an 8-year contract. So it's like
there's
totally
just
different
no
depth
path.
chart. Yeah,
Yeah, there's no
completely
path.
different depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's my little rant because it's been a very fun training camp just from Twitter perspective. So it's just a fun time.
Everyone's just talking about Celebrini.
Yeah, talking about Celebrini and journalists saying funny things. I feel like it's just people making like trying to get clicks. But anyway. That's all we got. That's all the position groups we have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I would say in closing though, it's been really interesting to see Warsawski. I'm working on a story on it. I think the other writers are something similar, but like different things he's done in training camp, as opposed not just compared to David Quinn, but other coaches I've seen. First, how hard the camp was at first, which is not that surprising considering how bad the Sharks were last year. But then things like changing rinks all the time for fresh ice, music today at practice.
Yeah, that was interesting.
These are all Warsawski things, and so that's. I think there's something else too. Actually, I forgot. There's the one thing I forgot too that was different too. So anyway, he's a guy that's clearly putting his stamp on the Sharks, and hopefully the Sharks need an injection of energy, of life, and maybe this is it. So
I got nothing. I was gonna try something for before you finish talking to talk for
it's
more.
okay.
So
No more pressure on the
I got
tags. So
that's it. That's it. I just got Warzo. I was trying to make like a Warzo for Prezzo kind of thing, but it
yeah.
didn't. And I already had a president. That was Gushchin. So yeah. Anyway, it's over. But yeah, just a different vibe this training.
There's
camp.
a lot different going on for sure.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hopefully watch a better Sharks team. We'll put that as like a little clip so that at the end of the year, if they are a better team, I'll be happy, and if they are not, I will remember these good times very fondly. All right, let's go. Let's wrap this up. Anything else?
I think we're good here. I think thanks for your patience on. I think these episodes have been kind of far in between during the summer, and so we will do better with that in the year. And so thanks for sticking with us, guys.
The grind is back on. We'll join you all next week with some 1 or 2 game delayed early season predictions. All right, have a good week, everybody. Bye.